please welcome Arun Ranganathan and Vikram Bhaskaran to tell you a little bit more about their company, Roon.
Hi, my name is Vikram, and I am the CEO and co-founder of Roon. And I'm joined today by
Arun. Hi, I'm the other co-founder of Arun, and I'm the CTO.
I was at Pinterest working in Silicon Valley when my father was diagnosed with a rare neurodegenerative condition called ALS. And because my dad was in India, we had such limited access to neurologists and real experts.
And I come at this from a very similar place. My father has been diagnosed with dementia. That disaggregated journey that you go through when you're trying to find information was actually kind of painful for all of us, right? But we did find ourselves sharing resources very widely. I've known Vikram for about 20 plus years. We both worked at Pinterest together.
And so we both had that moment of imagine if we could apply the craft, the discipline, the human capital that we did at Pinterest, which is an amazing app, but really to a place where people most need the internet to shine.
I guess that was the aha moment, which is, could we apply all the things we learned about search and design to health? Roon is now actually the product I wish we had back then.
The app is kind of your best guide companion when you need it. We fuse together the best of medicine and the best of the lived firsthand experience, and we delivered it in a format that is easy to consume, digest, and explore at your own pace. Is there a world where we build a place online that people can trust, that doctors can send people when you leave a clinic, and really gives anyone in the world a guide to navigating any condition.
So that is how we evolved into Roon, and it started with the pain that we felt as caregivers ourselves.
Hey, Reid.
Hey, and by the way, I agree with your opening intro that both that Pinterest is a great application, but the world needs navigation of these key issues. So great that you're doing what you're doing. Why don't you start with kind of what you're working on? What are some of the challenging problems that you've got going on with Roon?
Awesome. We're so happy to be on the show today. I'll start off by saying, at Roon, our vision is that everyone has access to a trusted guide for health. We are a medical Q&A platform, as you just saw, where we get the world's best experts to answer questions in short form video. We imagine a world where everyone, has the doctor with incredible bedside manner in your pocket, anywhere in the world. Both Arun and I come from India. And this is important today for two reasons. One is access issues aren't going away. In medicine, you're seeing primary care doctors quit medicine. The average time you spend with a doctor is 12 to 18 minutes. And in specialty care, 6 to 8 months to find a doctor. And then on the other side, we see this tidal wave of AI-generated content. And so this infinite supply of content, right? And so the tax of sifting through what is true and what's not is going to fall on an already burdened patient and caregiver. And so that's the setting the stage, Reid. And, two questions, right? So one is, we know you've spent lots of cycles thinking about medical assistance and what it might mean to have a doctor in your pocket. Tell us about your thoughts there. And then also just how do we think about building trust at scale in this age of infinite information and misinformation?
Well, why don't we first start with trust, and then we'll go a little bit to the other part. But trust is super important. It's actually one of our earlier Masters of Scale episode. We did the title was How to Build Trust Fast with Daniel Ek. So it's something that we interweaves through a bunch of different Masters of Scale. It's kind of a question of when you're new to building a relationship, because obviously people ultimately build trust out of a, kind of like, oh, it's reliable. I understand it. I've had time with it. It's built a relationship with me, whether it's another person or an institution or anything else. So the real question is, of course, how you accelerate that trust and preserve it, being worthy of it. And this is one of the reasons why people frequently look at referrals, like, okay, what other kinds of other people or brands? So you go, okay, well, Doctor such and such, or Hospital Y, or other kinds of things that are kind of referrals or brand proxies. Because like, well, if I trust them, then I also trust you because they're endorsing you. Sometimes it's kind of questions around setting up things where you're like, well, you're putting your kind of money where your mouth is. So like, for example, very early days in PayPal, we did PayPal buyer protection guarantee. So it's like, no, if you buy it with PayPal, you've got extra protection, on top of the credit cards and eBay and so forth, and for what you're doing, and we'll put our money where our mouth is on the transaction. And so you kind of look at other sorts of things that would lead to, kind of the kind of the acceleration of trust in terms of how things are operating. And that's the kind of thing that you look at when you're, kind of building, this kind of trust fast. Now, the other part of this thing of the medical assistant is, there's over 8 billion people on the planet. Access to doctors, as you know, it's already the specialists, a comment you already made, among other things, is limited, no time and access, and a lot of people don't have access at all. And so I think part of what we're going to be doing is kind of training, AI to kind of be as an assistant on every smartphone. And the first question will be is, do you have access to a GP? Right? Because, by the way, if you have access to a GP, it says, okay, great, I'll talk to you and help direct it. But if you don't, then here, I'll give you some advice as best I can. And obviously, you guys are thinking about AI a lot. So, how are you guys thinking about AI?
Yeah. So, Reid, when we think about AI, we think about putting the human medical expert and the person with lived experience front and center. So just as Vikram said, everybody wants that feeling of a doctor with a good bedside manner accessible in their pocket. And so when we built our instant answer product, we built it to use perspectives from doctors answering specific questions. So for ALS, for example, a neurologist would answer, but also someone that has lived experience with ALS or caring for someone with ALS, depending on the question. And we never let the LLM generate an answer outside of that context, for example. It's always very specific to what's in one of our videos as part of the answer corpus that the LLM will use to answer a question. So I guess one of our questions here is, how would you think about this handheld approach, this cultivated, almost artisanal approach to medicine versus using outside sources and still maintaining trust and guardrails for AI?
Well, there's a stack of different things. I mean, you guys are smart, in-depth with the tech industry, tech creation, and so forth. So you must understand that the human benchmark out of a performance basis is a benchmark, not perfection. Humans are not perfect in all things. And so you essentially want, kind of where AI is fitting in to be, frankly, kind of as good, or better than human. And also, because we know how to trust other human beings well, you want humans very much in the mix. So it's that combination of things that bring that. Now, that being said, I think that there's a set of different things that I think are even pretty easily doable today to both capture the power and flexibility of AI together with maintaining, those kinds of guardrails. I mean, like, for example, the medical assistant said, hey, I opened by saying, hey, I'm not a doctor, but I'm going to try to help. You also, in terms of interactions, you got to have a second, pass through it with is this right? To even the same model, but because part of the thing that these generative AI models do is they kind of play act in different roles trying to be supportive. And so if you had one that's kind of like, I'm trying to answer the question, and another one that's I'm cross-checking the answer, that doesn't mean it's be perfect. Then, of course, you can also do things, you both of your technical backgrounds, cross-checking things in a search APIs, cross-checking things into, databases of truth. You could be running them through both an immediate kind of like, oh, wait, there's a flag on a score, go pay attention to this one, something's wrong. Or, like as an analysis of the whole thing and saying, okay, this kind of thing needs to happen. Now, by the way, while we're talking about doing all this stuff with machines, we'll also, of course, ultimately want to be doing the same thing with human beings, because part of what could be a really good AI enhanced medical future is a doctor is talking to the patient, you have an audio stream that's going into the cross checking of models and goes, well, wait a minute, you might have missed something that you should have talked about, or did you see this latest information that on the case you're on? So that kind of, it's part of the reason why a lot of human institutions of truth are groups. It's a review committee for a scientific paper. It's a jury in a criminal thing. It's like, and you want to bring some of that, and AI enables all of that. And I think that obviously, initially, people aren't going to necessarily have a lot of trust for AI. So you brand trust AI, that doesn't work. You have to have humans in the loop in really strong ways. And I think that's one of the things that's kind of pretty essential to do that. Now, that being said, if you're not experimenting with the range of what you can do with the AI systems, which almost certainly you are given the Silicon Valley and tech background, then it'd be a mistake, because obviously the trajectory of the system's getting better, the quality getting better, everything else is going there, and being able to provision I have a specific ALS condition in India that I'm trying to navigate through, and these are what the things that's local, and and all of that gives you a much broader palette when you bring these generative AI systems, into the entire world. And so I think it'll be central to your strategy, but obviously, preserving trust, exactly as asked, bringing humans in the loop, exactly as you positioned, et cetera. Those will all be, I think, key parts of this.
Awesome. Well, the last sort of area of exploration, Reid, thank you for taking that so well. We thought we were amiss to not ask you about scale, since this is the Masters of Scale podcast. This company, we want to be the digital front door for health. This company only exists at scale. We're just getting started, but we have a thesis around really the way we build network effects is we'd invest in the doctor profile, reimagine the doctor profile. Today, doctor profiles are kind of anodyne on the web. And there's something interesting about the profile, the identity, and building doctor communities. Given your background at LinkedIn, you probably have thought deeply about profiles and identity and identity-based community. Any parallels or lessons from LinkedIn that you think will be germane to this space around doctor communities?
Well, one of the things that would be beneficial to the creation of these things now is this is another place where AI can be pretty helpful in a couple different ways. One is actually, in fact, as opposed to like form filling, everybody hates typing, filling out forms. Like, oh, here, fill this in. It's like, if what you, of course, had as an assistant that's going, hey, say a little bit more about this, or even, for example, you guys probably remember Friendster. One of the clever things that Friendster created, for those who don't know what the heck I'm talking about, this is way pre-Facebook. It's even pre-MySpace. Part of what it did to get people to put in a picture was it put a little gray question mark. It's like, I want to put a picture. I don't want to be the gray question mark. Well, similarly, if your AI said, well, here's a generic profile, here's an example, one's more personalized, would you like one that's really you? People say, well, sure, right? Kind of like, I'd rather not be generic. I'd rather be more specific. And if it's easy because it's in conversation and like you say, well, the kinds of things that are helpful for establishing trust with your the people you're interacting with the people who are reading you, the people who are, and so it's like, okay, like maybe you'd say something about kind of like where you are, how you grew up, why you got into medicine, kind of like how long you've been doing this, and kind of going through a whole set of questions that it could then craft that into something that kind of presents well. And by the way, it's also an easy way to even create, like kind of video profiles in as much as useful, because one of the benefits, just as people watching the three of us right now, one of the benefits of video is that video, we naturally as human beings, we have a tendency to trust, who we can see and touch, and trust other people as long as they're behaving in warm and compassionate and intelligent and other kinds of ways. And so, an AI can even prompt them, because most people just like, take a camera and do it. They go, I'm a little nervous about doing the video. But most people can respond to something and say, hey, we're just going to kind of go through and do a little bit of a dialogue here. And then you could even have the AI edit it, right? I mean, there's all kinds of ways where that becomes a presenting the human being in very good ways.
I think that's super insightful. We haven't thought about AI for profile building. And so I think that leaves us with an interesting, rich area for exploration.
Exactly. Well, I think, unfortunately, we're out of time, even given the crucial mission. But it's been awesome talking with you. And
likewise.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Reid.